everyone, I am Jason C, and today on the Master Drum, I am reviewing the new upcoming 150th anniversary releases from Old Forester. There are 3 batches in total to celebrate this 150-year milestone, and I will be tasting all 3 to let you know which one you should be chasing today on the Master Drum. So in 1870, George Garvin Brown changed the spirits industry forever when he sealed and sold his whiskey, Old Forester, exclusively in a glass bottle. Each bottle featured his signature, which was, in his terms, a personal guarantee of the brand's quality and consistency. So to celebrate 150 years later, Old Forester has announced the upcoming release of Old Forester 150th Anniversary Bourbon to commemorate his act of ingenuity, honor his legacy, and celebrate the history of the first bottled bourbon. What's interesting is in the 150 years since the company was founded, the brand has endured 13 years of prohibition, world wars, changing consumer palates, and industry consolidations. Today, Old Forester remains the only brand with an uninterrupted 150-year history, sold by the same family company before and during Prohibition, which I think is pretty cool. So for the Old Forester 150th anniversary, 150 barrels were chosen by Master Distiller Chris Morris and set aside for this limited release product. The resulting aged liquid was personally and individually tasted by Master Taster Jackie Zykan and separated by hand into 3 distinct batches, differing in proof and also flavor profile. So the Old Forester 150th anniversary bourbon references George's original process, composed of 3 batches, unfiltered, and each presented at individual batch strength. Now the limited releases will be presented in an old school amber glass bottle, which was reminiscent of the hand-blown glass, and will come in this commemorative canister. Now a limited number of cases will be available nationally in October 2020 for a suggested retail price of $150 each. Now when it comes to the age, this is said to be about 6 to 7 years old, but it was aged primarily in a heat-cycled warehouse, which makes it seem more like a 9 to 10-year-old bourbon flavor-wise. All right, guys, so to be fully transparent, I was sent a sample of batch 2 by Old Forester, and I was lucky enough to also get samples of batch 1 and batch 3 from a writer and reviewer friend of mine who actually happened to receive all 3 of them. All right, guys, so we're gonna start with batch 1. Now, batch 1 is 125.6 proof, was comprised of 46 barrels. Now, when we got the tasting notes, this was declared the Fruit Bomb by Jackie Zykan and Chris Morris, so let's find out if it was. I have not tried batch 1 yet, so let's go on the nose. This is actually extremely fruity on the nose. I am getting a hint of that quintessential Old Forester banana, but I am also actually picking up a lot of peach and apricot notes here. There's a kind of a chocolate and raspberry thing going on as well. Man, the raspberry note in here is like insane. It's really strong. It's so, normally when you taste bourbons, you do get, vanilla, you get caramel, you get all those quintessential flavors, but in this in particular, this batch 1, the fruit flavors are actually overtaking the vanilla and caramel flavors for me. They're really strong, they're really potent. There's a lot of oak in here too, good amount of oak presence going on. But yeah, it's almost like fruity and maple syrupy and chocolatey, but more fruit than anything. So I think Fruit Bomb, at least on the nose, was a good descriptor. So let's try it, guys. Cheers. This is batch 1. Man, that first sip is rich. There is a ton, again, more of that fruit flavor coming through. It is potent. It's tart. It's tangy. It's sweet. Extremely fruity. This is like ultimate dark fruits here, guys. This is, you're talking blackberries, blueberries, yeah, like blackberry jam. Oh my gosh. So actually, the other day I was out to dinner and we had these like fried donuts for dessert, and they came with like a couple of these dipping sauces, and one of them was this blackberry and raspberry, dipping sauce for these donuts, which was incredible. Obviously, it sounds delicious, but that's what this is reminding me of on the palate. Like that tanginess and deep dark richness that I had on the palate. Let's go for another sip here. So the back end, actually the finish on this, again, it's very fruity as well, but you get a little bit more of that. You get some really nice rye kick there in the back end, citrus. The fruit still stays with you. The dark fruit still stays with you on the back end as well. Oakiness, spiciness, cinnamon, a little bit of a ginger snap type flavor I'm getting on the back end as well. Man. So last sip on batch A, front of the palate, a ton of fruit sweetness. It's almost like you get the light fruits in the front end. You get all the apricots, like the peach flavors, a lot of the vanilla, the caramels, all in the front. And then once this thing hits mid-palate, it just goes dark. This goes to blackberry, plum, raspberry. And then as it works its way in the back, then the really nice proof and the spiciness kicks in. It's not an intense heat. Again, this is 125.6 proof, so it's not coming in overly hot at all. This is really just all flavor. That's a really good batch. I think A for me might be hard to beat, against from the other ones I had. All right, so let's move to batch 2 now. Batch 2 is 126.4 proof. This was comprised of 48 barrels, so slightly higher in proof than batch 1. This one is called Sweet and Spry. From Jackie Zykan and Chris Morris as well. So this one is supposed to invoke the characteristics of something sweet, but also spicy at the same time. So let's see what we got on batch 2. Wow, these are two completely different noses. Batch 2. Batch 2 actually comes across definitely more rye forward. I'm getting a lot of spiciness, but also a lot of sweetness as well. There's a nice cherry chocolate nose going on here. I just get a ton of, this one is way more maple syrupy than A was. B is just very maple syrupy. It's very sweet. Also getting kind of like a fried dough. God, this one, batch 2 is coming off like breakfast in a glass. Very maple syrup. This is like pancakes, maple syrup, but maybe the maple syrup has like a cherry infusion or something in it. It's kind of like cherry maple syrup over some nice fresh pancakes. A little bit of warm like honey as well. Yeah, this one, B also smells like it's a little bit, I don't know, there's like a heftness to it. Like it just smells deeper and richer. It might be more of a heavy flavor profile, but let's find out. Cheers, love to batch 2. This is definitely on the spicier side than batch A was. Batch A was way more sweet, more fruit forward. Batch B is bringing a little bit more spice, a lot more citrus. Again, you get kind of a fried dough, like carnival funnel cake or zeppoli type note to it. A little bit of chocolate there. But yeah, and then on the back end, way more spice than I was getting on batch A. Let's go for a sip here. Yeah, this one definitely comes through a little bit more rye punch. So you get those citrus notes, you get kind of these sparky, spicy, a little bit more of like a cinnamon or red hot type aspect to it on the back end. That's what actually it tastes like. If you guys have ever had cinnamon red hots, where it's like a little cinnamon, a little cherry flavor, that's what I'm getting, especially on batch 2 here. Really interesting the differences between the two. And the finish on batch 2 is actually longer. It's just really lingering. Spiciness just keeps going on. But the front of the palate is very sweet. So I think sweet and spicy is actually a really good, descriptor as well. Let's go for another sip here. One more of batch 2. Yeah, so a lot of cherry vanilla up front. Mid palate, it becomes the pancakes, the fried dough, maple syrup. Then as it works its way back, then boom, it's like somebody poured cinnamon red hots all over my pancakes. It's spicy, it's cinnamon, it lingers, a lot more citrus. I don't know which one I like more, because you guys know I love a really good finish on a bourbon, and this one is definitely bringing more of a finish than batch A, but batch A had a ton of like, just those fruit flavors. All right, so let's try batch 3 now. All right, so batch 3 is 126.8 proof, and this was comprised of 53 barrels, and this one was deemed green and spice by Jackie Zykan and team when they did their batching and their tasting. So this one is supposed to have a little bit more spice forward overall than the other two. So let's smell it, see what we get. I've not tried this one either, much like batch one. So let's try this one. So when you smell it, oh wow, interesting. Oh, it is, man, that's different. That is the third one, it's right. I mean, it's sweet. You get brown sugar, but there is a ton of citrus and orange right off the nose. I was getting a little bit of orange in both of them, but this is the first time I'm getting it off the nose in batch 3. Ton of citrus, ton of spice, a lot of cinnamon. This one is reminding me a little bit of the birthday bourbon for 2020, where it's got this hint of tropical fruit to it. Yeah, it's like tropical spice, if that makes sense. Man, when you compare the noses on these three, they are all completely different. Wow. I think I still like the nose on batch 1. My favorite nose so far might be batch 1. All right, let's try batch 3 on the palate, see what we get here. You would think that's like a bull rye, where it's a blend of bourbon and rye. There's a lot of rye spice that I'm getting on the mid palate here. You would actually almost mistaken that for a rye, maybe. Like a Kentucky rye. It's very spicy. There's a lot of those spearmint and orange notes that you get on a good rye. Maybe a little bit of peppermint spice there. Black pepper. It's almost savory in a way. Let's go for another sip. This one is almost spicy and sour at the same time, number 3. It's got a really interesting, very different flavor profile. Again, lingering spice, black pepper, ton of orange, man. The orange, I'm getting some of that banana note, the quintessential banana. Man, let's go for another sip of batch 3. Now I'm getting like a mix between orange, spice. I got a hint of black licorice in there too, which my palate's very sensitive to it. Wasn't really getting it on the first couple sips, definitely got it on that last sip. So front of the palate for this one is a lot of spice. I mean, there's a definite tingling on the front of the palate for batch 3 here. As it works its way to the middle, just orange, citrus. You do get that hint of chocolate there. There's a tropical note to it, whether it be banana, maybe a melon. Then as it works its way back, all that spice just comes like full circle. Pepper. Yeah, and that black licorice note is still coming around. That drinks like a rye whiskey to me, like a Kentucky rye. Maybe a little bit on the sweeter side, but this easily has the longest finish of all 3 of these. So, man, all 3 of them for the batches, I think can offer something different for any one of you that are maybe hunting one of these. So let's break them down a little bit. All right, so prices on these are $150. While they aren't on secondary yet, since they'll be coming out in October, I would project these will probably be 3 to 4 times the retail price by flippers and less than honorable liquor store owners, unfortunately. Availability for these, as you guys know, will be limited. For value, I think it's even. I think given the quality, being batch strength, and its limited availability, celebrating 150 years, the amber bottle, the nice canister, I think $150 for a special release of this magnitude is a decent price in today's market. So what's the most I would pay for these? If I can help it, I don't want to pay more than retail for these. $150 I think is spot on. Unfortunately, like I said, these will be upped in price, you know, by secondary market guys and also a lot of liquor store owners that will see this as a collector's item. And while that may be true, now remember, Old Forester not only has 1920, but recently also has barrel strength picks out in the market now that have this type of flavor punch. They're high proof, they have a lot of layered flavor. Now, what I will say is all 3 of these are very unique, and they definitely have some more layered flavors than I've had in any of the barrel strength offerings. But there are other options out there that, you know, if you don't find these, you don't have to search and pay secondary market value for these. All right, guys, so do I recommend these? Yes, of course, but if you're gonna spend the money on these, and if you're even maybe planning on spending a little bit more than retail to get your hands on one of these, you should definitely know the flavor profile you're gonna be hunting down. If you want something real fruit forward, if you want something extremely dark fruit forward with some chocolate mixed in, a little bit of cinnamon spice in there, but very fruity, very dark, very rich, not too much of a finish, but something that definitely is bold, a little bit more on the oaky side, you're gonna wanna hunt down batch 1. If you want something with a mix of sweet and spice, you're gonna wanna go for batch 2. Remember, batch 2 has got the pancakes, the maple syrup, a little bit of cherry, some cinnamon red hots on the back end. That's batch 2. Batch 3, if you like something a little bit more rye heavy, if you're a if you're a fan of drinking like a boo rye, like a bourbon rye blend, something with a lot more citrus notes to it, something that's a little bit more on the black licorice side, you'll absolutely love batch 3. So I think there's something for everyone in the lineup. All right, guys, well, thanks for watching this episode of the Master Drum, where we reviewed all 3 brand new batches of the Old Forester 150th anniversary. Hope you liked it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit that like button. If you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. Let me know out of my tasting, which would be the one you would hunt down. And if you want to know my favorite, you know which one this is. Cheers, and I'll see you next time on the Master Drum. Take care, guys.